Paul Jones, Jevohn Shepard, Sherman Hamilton. February 1st, the start of Black History Month, a significant month on the calendar for all of us and for, I think, the world to recognize, for me, the contributions of Black people, African Americans, African Canadians, Afro-based people all over the world and what they have accomplished. And I think, I'll say this from a personal standpoint, I think sometimes those accomplishments get pushed to the sideline. They kind of get buried under other things, and maybe the true part of what it means in history does not come to the forefront all the time. So it's an important month for me to celebrate all of that and to celebrate Black excellence and Black achievement. And that's, I mean, to me, that's what it's all about. You think of Sears, the department store Sears. Well, it used to be Sears and Roebuck was a Black man. And, the Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, but the guy who invented the filament so the bulb wouldn't blow was a Black man. So those are, to me, those are accomplishments and achievements that I think need to be highlighted. Sherm, I know there's some things that definitely resonate with you.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Part of me absolutely loves Black History Month. Then part of me doesn't. And the part of me that doesn't says that this is such a small segment of time for us to really explore this and educate ourselves and other people about it. It's not enough. This should be a 12-month process.
Yes.
And that's the part that bothers me about it.
Yeah.
However, the fact that it's here and that's what we do, you got to celebrate it. And, a lot of times when we talk about Black History Month, I find that we speak about it retroactively in terms of things that we're not necessarily physically connected to, but we know of them. We've learned of them. We understand the value of it, and we appreciate it. But when there's a personal, interpersonal connection with it, it's very big. And for me personally, I had an interesting few conversations with Lincoln Alexander, the first Black Lieutenant Governor of Canada and of Ontario, and first Black member of Parliament. And he was a guy who would take the time out to stop me when he was at Raptor games sometimes. And he had a softer voice. He was older. He was a bit frail in terms of his health, and he'd always pull me in close and he would say, "Listen, everything I went through makes sense when I see people like you doing what you're doing."
Yeah.
And those kind of interactions with him, and he would tell me how proud he was of me. And this is when I first started in broadcasting. He would tell me how proud he was of me. I don't know him.
Yeah.
I never knew him until he decided to come and say something to me. And when you get that type of kind of acknowledgement, that kind of empowerment, that respect you're getting from somebody who I owe all the respect to.
Right.
He doesn't owe me any respect. Yeah. That to me is something that I carry with me. And it's so interesting that he's saying all this to me all over the years. And eventually my old high school changed its name to Lincoln Alexander
Isn't that
High
something?
School.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It really is, because those are the people that paved the way. And we're all fortunate to know the first African-American general manager in the NBA, Wayne Embry. And for me, sitting down and hearing Wayne tell the story about how what we have now is the NBA Players Union, from an all-star game where the owners were banging on the door and telling them to get out there and play. And Wayne said, I feared for my job and I was going to get up. And Jerry West and all the other stars said, oh, no, you're not. We're holding tight here till we get a pension. And to know that those people went through those kinds of things, and you look at the NBA now where guys are earning multi-million-dollar contracts for, 4 or 5 years terms and making money. And those people went through that for us to have the things we have. Could we have a show 20, 30 years ago where there are 3 black men on the air talking about?
If we could, we never saw it.
Well,
right.
Yeah,
we never saw it.
But I mean, I look at I take this back a little bit to Dr. King. I look at our room in here with a majority culture producer, a Filipino associate producer. We're getting there.
As much as it's we celebrate this much. I firmly believe, and I stand on, like, just continuing to educate. And you touch on our people, but as well as the rest of the world. And I'll give you an example, because I think we've come a long way, but we haven't gotten where we need to be, right? Just 2 days ago, I'm walking through the mall, right? And I asked this lady directions to get to the food court. Immediately, before I got a response, she clutched the bag she had in her hand, right? And to me, like, in that moment, I could be frustrated. I could be
You're a
upset.
big dude, though.
I'm a big dude, but I'm a big black dude. I'm a
Right.
big black dude, right?
Yeah.
And at that moment, it's like, listen, like, first of all, I'm in a suit, right? I have 2 degrees. I'm not here. I'm not stealing your purse. I'm not stealing your whatever you have here, your wallet. But at that moment as well, it was for me to say, okay, you know what? We still have somewhere.
We
to
do.
go.
We always
still
do.
have somewhere to go. So as
Yeah.
much as we're celebrating, you still have to continue to educate. Like, and we're a part of that responsibility.
And I think the NBA has taken that responsibility very seriously as well, with highlighting this month the same way they did on January 15th for Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. The NBA has put resources into it. Something like the All-Star Game is coming up, and again, we have another HBCU Classic. I mean, everybody knows about. You guys went to, majority culture, white institutions, so to speak. But places like Winston-Salem State and Grambling and Southern and Jackson State and all of these places, I mean, they're fine educational institutions as well. And maybe they need, some of that, some of that bolstering, some of that uplifting that we don't always spread around so equally.
Yeah, and I think even in Canada, we have a tendency to talk about what's happening south of the border.
Yeah.
Right.
And because, I mean, we are so influenced by what happens over there, and we're impacted by it as well. But right here in Canada, we have the ability to make more of an impression amongst our own country.
Yeah.
And you talk about education. What starts at home? Home is Canada for us. And I think sometimes we can get caught looking so far away over the fence, we forget the area that's right in front of us and how much needs to be done. And I think that's something we got to be aware of. And again, we talk about it now, but the fizzle happens February 28th.
Yeah.
And we're on to the next thing.
Well, and to your point, Sherm, one of the hashtags that I have on, if people message me personally, is always Black History Always, hashtag Black History Always, because I believe, like both of you, it's a continual cycle. It's constant education. It's our time now, Sherm, Jevohn, to look back at the people that we didn't know we were blazing a trail or we were giving them hope or whatever, but they're coming up behind us too. And as Lincoln Alexander did with you, I think it's time for us to continue to throw the rope back and pull people forward, because a rising tide lifts all boats. Once everybody's doing the right thing, everybody gets pulled forward.
And also, when you think about the idea of trying to make change, I really think transpires based on doing.
Yeah.
Not the potential impact, but just doing. In moments, do it. When it needs to be done, do it. Might cost some things, but do it. Because that, to me, is where impact is in the action. And I think when we talk about historically the people who have made a change, I don't think any of them, in terms of, like you talk about the filament for the light, I don't think it was done because I'm doing it for our people.
No, it's in the moment.
This is a human being who had an idea, who was brilliant, and changed the course of history. And now we get a chance to reflect out and say, you know what you did was special. Yeah. And guess what? You were black too. It's a great combination.
And don't get it twisted. Sometimes, as you talked about, Sherm, the change, the two words are forever intertwined, conflict and change. One leads to the other. When there's a conflict, you're going to get a change. When there's a change, sometimes you're going to have to go through some conflict. So, you do it, as you said, you do it in the moment, and you kind of take what comes with it. And I think you just want to be on the right side of history when it's all said and done. That's, to me, that's what it's about, and that's what the constant changes are about. All right, when we come back, man, that was kind of philosophical.
It's good, though. It's good.
It's good. These conversations need to happen.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. When we come back to basketball, the Houston Rockets, the next opponent for the Toronto Raptors, and we'll talk about them in a minute.
Thanks for watching the Toronto Raptors YouTube channel. Check out our latest video and subscribe for more.
Kane denied.